Revenge films.
I'm just an ordinary company employee living with my wife and our kindergarten-aged son. Recently, I'd been planning to take my wife on a trip for the first time in a while. When I told her about it, she was thrilled and couldn't stop saying how happy she was. I told her the destination would be a surprise and kept it secret. She's always loved surprises, so it worked out perfectly. On the day of the trip, the three of us set off together. Along the way, we stopped at rest areas with our son and my wife, enjoying some sightseeing. Around this point, my wife started acting strange, but I didn't pay much attention to it, and we kept having fun as a family. When we arrived at the hotel in the evening and my wife entered the room, her face turned pale.
Wait, this place...
That's when I said, "Yeah, you've been here before, haven't you? On your affair trip." My wife stared at me in shock. The truth is, today's entire travel route was exactly the same one my wife had taken 2 months ago, when she lied about having work and went on a trip with her affair partner. I even booked the same type of room she'd stayed in that day. But how did I find out about her affair? Well, my wife and I have a mutual friend, and one day this friend told me that my wife had a secret social media account. At first, I didn't think much of it. Women having secret accounts is pretty common, probably just a place to vent frustrations. I casually said, "Oh, I see," and moved on. But then I learned that she was using this secret account as a photo gallery of her memories with her lover. I immediately checked it out and confirmed everything. On that secret account, there were cheerful photos of her sightseeing with her affair partner, pictures of them enjoying meals in this very room, and posts saying she came here with him, despite being married. Here's what makes that day especially infuriating. That morning, our son had a fever. I asked my wife if she couldn't take paid leave to stay with him since I, as a man, was worried about handling it alone. But she said she had work that absolutely couldn't be postponed and left for the office. Since we both work, I figured I had no choice but to take the day off to watch our son. But by early afternoon, his fever kept climbing, passing 102 degrees. I got worried and tried calling my wife before taking him to the hospital, but no matter how many times I called, she never picked up. Then suddenly, our son had a febrile seizure. He was rushed to the hospital by ambulance and had to stay overnight. When my wife heard about it later, she apologized, saying she didn't notice because of work. But I realized then that it wasn't work at all. She was just too caught up with her lover to notice. At that moment, I couldn't forgive her anymore and decided on divorce right then. But divorcing her straight away felt too easy, so I decided to plan this trip instead. My wife must have really wanted to show off her trip with her lover because she left tons of information online. It was incredibly easy to figure out the route and this room. She must have been head over heels for him. There were even kissing photos that honestly made me sick to my stomach. And get this. When we travel as a family, she always insists on downgrading the room, saying accommodation costs are a waste of money. But the room she booked with her lover was top tier, complete with a private outdoor bath. Of course, when I checked our bank account, I found she dipped into the savings we'd been setting aside to buy a house. There was no saving her at that point. I pulled out papers from my bag and handed them to my wife, who was frozen in place in the room. "Here, fill this out." My wife gasped in surprise. She never dreamed she'd be signing divorce papers in this very room. I told her I'd be demanding alimony from both her and her lover, of course, and that I'd already sent a certified letter to her lover's company, so he'd probably be calling her soon. Right on cue, her lover's call came through, so I told her to go ahead and answer it. But she just stood there, pale-faced and silent, unable to move. Then I hit her with more reality. I couldn't stand being with you for even one more day, so while we've been on this trip, I've already finished sorting out everything at the house. I'm heading back now, but you'll need to figure out your own way home. As a courtesy, I've paid for you to stay here one more night, but by the time you get back tomorrow, the house will be gone.
You're joking, right?
Why would I joke about something like this? We're getting divorced, so I don't want to live in that house anymore. My son and I are moving into company housing. I had nowhere to put your stuff, so I've stored everything in a rental unit by the station. The rest is up to you.
Wait a minute, nobody told me about this.
Well, nobody told me you were having an affair either.
Wait, it wasn't serious. You're the only one I love.
Funny, didn't you say the same thing to your lover? With that, my wife stood there stunned, so I picked up my exhausted, sleeping son and left the inn. Afterwards, just as I expected, my wife's lover kept calling her non-stop. Apparently, since he worked in sales, having the reputation of being an adulterer was bad for business, and he was transferred to a rural branch office. As for my wife, who's truly trash through and through, apparently on the day she went on her affair trip, she told her company that my father had suddenly died and took the day off. When this lie was exposed, she became completely ostracized and isolated at work. She stuck it out for a while, but people whispered behind her back everywhere she went, labeling her as the worst kind of scum. I heard through the grapevine that she eventually quit voluntarily. Good riddance. With nowhere else to turn, my wife kept calling me, but I never answered. So she turned to her parents for help. However, I'd already told them about her affair, so they turned her away. Her father absolutely despises infidelity. He's such a purist that he'll even change the channel if it comes up on TV. In fact, her parents even bowed down to me and apologized profusely, saying their daughter had done something truly inexcusable. I'd only gone there to settle things properly, and her parents weren't at fault at all. I still can't understand why my wife didn't realize that affairs hurt everyone around her, not just the people directly involved. After that, I demanded $50,000 in alimony from each of them, her lover and my wife. My wife had lost her job and been abandoned by her parents, so she cried that she didn't have that kind of money. But that's not my problem. A while later, I heard from a friend about what my wife was up to. Apparently, in this tough economy, she can't find full-time work like she used to. She's working part-time jobs like cleaning and convenience store shifts, but of course the pay is terrible since they're just hourly gigs. Now she's living in a run-down studio apartment, barely staying off the streets. I guess that's why she's been asking friends if they can lend her money. But at our age, most of our friends have families of their own. Not a single person sided with a wife who abandoned her feverish child to run off on an affair. She's been ignored and isolated not just at work, but by her friends too. But anyone who has an affair should understand the risks involved. They need to take responsibility for their actions, and that goes for her lover too. As for me, I started a new life with just my son. Honestly, he's still so young and it's incredibly challenging, but the people around me know what happened and they've been supportive. They've let me switch to remote work after regular hours so I can spend more time with my son, and they've been flexible when he's sick. So, we're managing somehow. My wife will spend the rest of her life fighting loneliness while being hounded by the alimony she owes me. But she brought it on herself.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.